Hey, this is day 182 of reading the Bible each day to get through the whole thing this year. Today we read the book of Obadiah, which won't take us very long because it's only 21 verses. It's actually the shortest book in the entire Old Testament. Let's go. Obadiah starts off with a little superscript, a little preamble. Just says, the vision of Obadiah lets us know where this all came from. He comes with this prophecy against Edom. Now, Edom is Esau and from Jacob and Esau. And so this is the not chosen brother out of Jacob and Esau, sons of Isaac. Esau, Edom, is sort of prophesied to be against his brother the whole time. In this book, what we get is a pretty aggressive judgment against them and an indictment for participating in the downfall of Jerusalem, also spoken of as Jacob, because this is about, the Lord is calling them back to, hey, your lineage, you are part of this same people that I have called my people. And so it's the sons of Jacob that are the tribes of Israel. Jacob becomes Israel, right? So it's the sons of Jacob that are the tribes of Israel. So the sons of Edom are cousins to the Israelites, and yet they don't act like it. Instead, they end up on the other side of it and end up participating in, at the very least, mocking, but also somewhat coming after them, as we see kind of in 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, right in that range. And so as it starts that portion in verse 10, because of the violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you and you shall be cut off forever. So this is essentially God saying, I'm going to cut the line of Edom and it's going to cease to exist because of what you have done in participating in the destruction of Jerusalem and in helping take over or harass or exile Israel. Now, as far as our chronological reading plan, because that's what we're doing, right? As we read through the whole Bible, as far as our chronological plan goes, this lands in an interesting spot because there is an attendant of Ahab named Obadiah. And I'm not sure if that's why this is placed there. Some scholars would attach it to him. A lot of scholars would place this later. There are several people named Obadiah throughout Scripture. It's a fairly common name, so it wouldn't be completely crazy to think there are multiple people named Obadiah. There's a pretty good case to be made based on the descriptions in that passage of 10 to 14, where it seems to be talking about Jerusalem having been conquered, run out, put out, and then Edom participating and coming in and kind of defiling Jerusalem and mocking them or taking advantage of their distress in the midst of having been beaten and or conquered. In the time that Ahab is living, that's in the 9th century BC, so the mid 800s BC. There's the exile, which happens in the 500s BC, so a few hundred years later. So some scholars would put it farther there and say this lands between the Babylonian exile of Israel and Babylon conquering and largely wiping out Edom about another maybe 100 years later. And so all that just to say the particulars of what Obadiah prophesies are not necessarily locked into a particular time, but it seems like they could easily fit there. Or maybe they are part of, Obadiah, the attendant of Ahab, speaking out. God has spoken through a donkey and all sorts of other people, so it's entirely possible that he chose one of Ahab's servants or attendants as well, somebody in his orbit to do that. Either way, a vision comes to this person. He speaks against Edom and then specifically dials it in for the purposes of saying, because of what you did to Israel, I'm going to come against you. I'm going to end you. You are going to be cut off because you did all of these things. Instead of helping them, you stood aloof it says. And when everything was carried away, and it's speaking of Jacob specifically, but this isn't about Jacob the person. This is about Jacob representing all of Israel, as Esau, Edom, is representing the entire nation. But then it moves into, at the end, it starts to broaden things out. It talks about the day of the Lord, which is going to be the day of judgment. This is talked about in a lot of Old Testament prophetic literature and in things that Jesus says. And so it's also New Testament prophecy. It's consistent prophetic language of the day of judgment that is to come. The day of the Lord is going to be a day of judgment for Edom, for Israel, and for all of the nations. So all will face this. And then at the very end of Obadiah, we see the last couple of verses, 19 through 21, talk about how the kingdom will provide rulers. The eternal kingdom of Yahweh will provide rulers who will reign over everything, including Edom. And so it says that there are those who will, those of the Negeb or the Negev, depending on the translation you're looking at, shall possess Mount Esau. And, kind of goes on to keep describing that the people of Israel, those who stand in the line of Israel, or, those who are God's people, will be the ones who, even at the end, it says, saviors shall go up to Mount Zion, or from Mount Zion, to rule Mount Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. And so this starts with the downfall of Israel and goes all the way to the ultimate rule and reign of Yahweh and his people over all of creation, really, is sort of what this ends up representing. What can we take away from it? Well, for me, as I look at this, knowing that even when things seem like they're not going our way, even if destruction comes, the Lord is still king. Jesus still sits on the throne. And in the day of the Lord, all things will be properly judged. All those who stand with him will find themselves blessed and honored, and all those who oppose him will not continue to stand. The Lord is going to have his way in the end. That's what stands out to me. That's what I'm taking away from this. I want to be, one, aligned all the time with King Jesus, but also I want to take hope and comfort in knowing that Jesus is always king, and that his rule, reign, and even his righteous judgment will one day come. Whether I'm still on this earth to see it or not, it will happen. And we can take hope and solace and comfort in that. I'd love to hear what stands out to you. So drop that in the comments on the video or on the Bible app. Let's talk about that, or any questions or anything else. Thanks for joining us today. Be rad for Jesus.